match is to begin. A thousand banners waving in the sky. Here comes our Lazio, the eagle starts to fly.
Hello Laziali all over the world, welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. Finally, the last weekend without an official match for La Prima Squadra della Capitale. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. The transfer market, the last friendly match against Borussia Dortmund, what's going to happen to the team, and obviously a little preview of the first match of the season, Lazio Napoli. Not an easy test to start with. I'm Vittorio Campanile, with me again, Alistair McKenzie. Hello Alistair, how are you?
Yeah, very good. I mean, I'm very excited now. You know, you're talking about it being the last weekend of the season before the real football, and it seems obvious, but you know, it's still very exciting to think that we're so close to it starting. But you're right. I mean, it's not an easy opening game. It's the complete opposite. But that I think makes the anticipation even higher. You know, I think it beats playing Spal in the opening day, having such a big game. It's fun.
Yeah, and you will be there, right? You are moving to Rome just next week. So another big challenge, another very big excitement for you, I can believe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very, very hectic. I've been incredibly busy for the last month or so getting ready for all these changes. So yeah, but I mean, it does make it very exciting. It's hard to believe that in a week's time I'll have moved out, be based in Rome, have seen the first Lazio match, and hopefully we might even get a Lazio Lounge meetup at the game as well, if you're going to be there too.
Yeah, I'll try. I'm in Italy at the moment, and it's so hot, Alistair. Get prepared because, you know, you're going to be melting, trust me. And this brings even a question. This is the first season that the Serie A starts so early, the 18th of August. I know they try to copy the Premier League that starts very earlier, but I think they forgot that the weather in Italy is slightly different compared to the one in England. I think the first couple of matches of the season will be terrific because it will be so hot to play that players will melt after a couple of minutes.
You're really starting to scare me now. My Scottish skin is not prepared for this onslaught of heat. Yeah, I know that. Well, that is an interesting part of it, I suppose, isn't it? I mean, players always complain about playing in hot weather when it gets that bad, and you know, Rome in August is famously sticky and hot and disgusting. So, I suppose it's still a home game. Maybe the players will have adjusted to it, but you know, training in the mountains of Aronso and now in Germany, I don't think that's exactly acclimatizing them to what's going to greet them when they get back again. No,
it won't. But today was an important test against Borussia Dortmund. Important because I believe the team that started today will probably be the same team that will play against Napoli. Let's not forget that Lulic and Leva won't be able to play because they got banned in the last match of last season. Berisha is still injured. He didn't play today. I don't think he's going to be able to play next week against Napoli. The rumors are he should be able to play against Juventus, so the second day of Serie A. So Inzaghi tried this formation, which was Strakosha, Radu, Acerbi, Wallace. On the left of the midfield there was Durmisi, Parolo, Badel, Milinkovic-Savic, Marusic, Luis Alberto and Ciro Immobile. Not big surprises there, I think, Alistair. It's what we were expecting, knowing who won't be available for Saturday, right?
Yeah, I mean, when we talked last week about the Arsenal game, I think we were both saying it was, you know, slightly strange to see Lulic and Leva both being involved when we knew that they weren't going to be playing in the Napoli game. So at least this time it does give us a real indication about what Inzaghi's thinking and what the team's likely to be. I couldn't see the game today. I was coming back from a wedding, so I was just having to follow it on Twitter. But this means I'm going to have to bombard you with questions, I'm afraid. But I mean, the thing that I suppose would have interested me the most. There's a lot of interesting things about that lineup, but how did Badel do? Because obviously he's only recently joined the team. He's had an extended holiday after the World Cup with Croatia, where he didn't actually play too much either. So if we're looking at someone to come in play for Lucas Leiva, he's the obvious choice. But then if he's not 100% back in full fitness yet, then it's a big risk to play him. So what did you make of him, first of all?
I didn't like his performance. I think you're right. He's not 100% fit. And to be honest with you, I thought a lot of players weren't at his best today, and you could see it. I think Badel, Ciro Immobile, they weren't in great shape. Immobile missed a couple of days of training due to injury. Badel came later. So the problem there is, who do you play instead of Badel in that position?
Yeah.
At the moment, without Leiva, without Berisha, the only other option was Cataldi, who came in the last minutes of the match. It could be an option, honestly, Cataldi, seeing how Badel played today, but it's even true there's still a week of training, so Badel could find his form in the last 7 days. It's strange because Milinkovic Savic as well as Badel start training later, but I thought he had a great first half, and then a little bit like all the rest of the team, he had a drop in the second half. The strange thing of this match was that I thought Lazio played much better than Borussia Dortmund in the first half. I thought Ciro Immobile missed two very good chances that usually Ciro Immobile don't miss. Otherwise, Lazio would have won that match. Borussia was lucky to score. It was an own goal of Radu, and didn't have that many chances. Especially, I was surprised because Wallace played in the first half, and I thought that Wallace didn't play bad at all. He was often one-on-one against the striker, and he performed quite well. When Ramos came in, I thought Ramos played better than Wallace, but still, Wallace didn't play as bad as I thought. So that was the good thing. Lazio played better in the first half. Then I thought it dropped, but it scares me a little bit seeing Ciro Immobile missing so many chances.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is something I was wanting to pick up on as well, is that last week, I suppose, we were talking about the Arsenal game, a 2-0 defeat in that one, and we were still able to be quite upbeat about it because although there were defensive concerns as usual, we were still creating a lot of chances. But what's happened now is we have actually come away from these two games without scoring a goal. So how much of a difference was there today between, the fairly upbeat mood after the Arsenal game in terms of chances created and good forward movement? Was the problem today just the finishing? Was it just...
Well, I thought that Lazio played better than against Arsenal. I thought Luis Alberto was in good shape. I think the biggest problem was that Ciro Immobile is still not the Ciro Immobile we used to see. He missed one chance that was very, he usually scored from there. And the wingers, that's probably the biggest problem we are facing now. In the first goal, it's true that it was unlucky because Radu deflected the shot, but Marusic was completely late and allowed Borussia to have a counter-attack. Durmisi played well when it was time to attack, but didn't play that well, wasn't covering the defense when Borussia was attacking. So I think that's one of the biggest issue at the moment. But at the same time, knowing how Lazio performed last year, you have to be honest and say that Borussia Dortmund had no more than 4 chances during all the match, and of this, probably only one was a real great chance that they missed. So from one side, Lazio is maybe allowing less chances to the opponent. On the other side, they're scoring less.
The wing backs, I suppose that's something that concerns me a bit going into next week, because we've got Dermisi and Marasic, who both are quite attack-minded wing-backs. And if you think about them leaving space behind, of all teams in the league, Napoli are probably the last team you want to do that against. And it does worry me. It's probably going to wake me up in the middle of the night over the next week thinking about the space that could be afforded to the likes of Insigne and Verdi and Callejon, all these very fast, talented wingers that Napoli have in their team. So do you think Dermisi's ready to start in that game? I mean, it was interesting to see Cáceres coming on and being used as a left wing-back. Do you think that's a genuine alternative, perhaps because he'll provide more defensive cover?
Well, if you remember, we spoke about this when Cáceres was signed by Lazio. He has that option. And honestly, I thought that, okay, a train is passing by. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. Cáceres has that option, and I thought that Inzaghi tried him in the second half, and I thought that's mainly the reason he wasn't convinced by Dermisi's performance. And to be honest, in the second half, Borussia didn't create a single chance from the left side. So I think Cáceres provided that coverage that Dermisi didn't provide in the first half. Maybe he could attack a little bit more. I think he was a little bit scared or wasn't 100% convinced of pushing that hard there. But I think that Cáceres played well and he can be an option there. I'm convinced it could be a solution for especially for the beginning of the season, considering that Lulic won't be able to play and Lukaku is still recovering. I believe Lazio doesn't have that many options there. On the other side, I think Marusic didn't start very well, then he improved. So I don't know if Basta can start there instead of Marusic. Again, we talked about Basta in the past that he didn't convince us. Anderson played there a couple of minutes. Lotito talked about him last week, saying that if Lazio doesn't sell Basta, then Anderson is going to stay. Otherwise, he's going to move to Salernitana. So we're going to see what happened there. But I don't think Anderson is going to play against Napoli in that position.
No, I'd be very, very surprised. I mean, the other thing, just to finish, I suppose, in the Dortmund game is one of the criticisms I've read, at least from, looking online, seeing what people are saying, is that the same problems from last season are still appearing, or don't appear to be resolved, with the defence being too open, too many chances being conceded, and effectively just not really having structurally tightened up that side of the game that was such an issue last season. I mean, we've spoken a lot over the summer about whether Inzaghi is likely to be more flexible with his tactics, and it was interesting, obviously, after Badel arrived, particularly the brief talk of a change to a 3-4-2-1, but that's not happened in any of the friendlies for a lot of reasons. I suppose there's not been a lot of time, and the injuries we've had and so on has been an issue too. Do you think it's too late now in terms of bringing in an additional tactic that might be used? Do you think now that the season's about to start, there's a chance that Inzaghi's just going to look straight ahead again and say, right, I have to keep in the same system because I'm not going to have enough time to coach this team into a new system with Europa League games as well as Serie A games?
Honestly, I think Inzaghi has still this week to try something different. And as what I saw in the second half, I think he's going to try something different. I think he's going to try Cáceres there. And then he has, let's say, after the first two matches, there is the international break, so he can try something there. The problem is that he wanted to try Berisha and Badel or Leiva playing in front of the defense, and Berisha was pretty much never available. So he didn't have that option and that chance to try it. It's true Lazio played with the same formation of last year, but I think there was a better coverage, especially in the central position. Badel didn't convince me, especially when Lazio had to start had the ball, but he was better in defending when Borussia had the ball. So he was providing that extra layer of defense that Lazio was missing last year. I think the biggest problem at the moment are on the wing. If you go and see the highlights of this match, you'll find out that I think Borussia had only one chance created from the center of the field. All the other came from the side. And you were saying that you read a lot of comments saying that Lazio allowed too many chances to Borussia. I don't agree. I mean, if you see the highlights, I really think that in the first half, Lazio had more chances than Borussia. And in the second half, when Lazio dropped down, especially physically, I think Strakosha didn't make any good save. You know, they didn't have that many good chances. So I think you can see improvement there. My biggest concern is now the other side, you know, attacking. Ciro Immobile is not at the level we need to see him play. So, and we all talked about Caicedo already. I don't think he's an option to start against Napoli. So Lazio has to rely on those players to try to win against Napoli.
Yeah, and that's the side of the game that we're not used to having to worry about at all. I mean, the attacking side of the attacking side of things has never really been an issue under Inzaghi. It's always been a case that we're capable of scoring goals in almost every match. But yeah, I think, you know, you talking there about how many times Dortmund got in down the sides. Again, I'll repeat the point. I think that's a really worrying thing to hear before playing Napoli, because that's such a dangerous part of that squad and what they can offer, particularly on the counter attack, which they'll be able to hit us on, playing as the away team. So yeah, that is a bit worrying.
It's true that it's not the same Napoli of last year. They're struggling a lot. If you saw the friendly matches, then you saw a completely different Napoli. So, you know, that's obviously a good sign for Lazio. As we said, Lazio needed to improve on the wings, both sides, I think, and have to see if Casares can be a solution there. On the other side, you have to say that Lazio created a lot of chances, but always made mistake in the last pass or when they need to finish. So I think, again, you can see the glass half full or half empty. Lazio created a lot of chances. That's good. They didn't finish it. That's the concerning part. You have to see if with 1 week extra of training they can solve this problem. I thought Luis Alberto had a great first half. Milinkovic Savic as well. And in the last 20 minutes, Correa came in and he had a great chance as well. He showed his talent. You know, he really looks like a good signing for Lazio, and he can have a huge impact, especially if he comes in the last 20 minutes of the match, especially now that it's very hot and the opposite defense could be really tired.
Well, picking up on that point, we do have a question from Vildan Glavas. Well, he actually wrote us in with two questions, but we use the second part of it to pick up on that, which is whether Correa can be used as a Vice Immobile instead of Caicedo, which I suppose is never really a role he's played before. But he has been an adaptable attacker. You know, he's played across a kind of all the way across the pitch as an attacking midfielder. He's played as a number 10. So do you think that might be something that gets tinkered with if Caicedo continues on the same path, which he's, let's be honest, not showing any signs of deviating from?
Well, there are two questions there. I think Correa can play like falso nueve, how they used to call it in Spain, especially if Milinkovic Savic is there, because he can create space for Milinkovic-Savic to come in the box, and we know how Milinkovic-Savic can be dangerous inside the box, especially with long balls or cross for his head. So they tried something like that in the last friendly, and it worked out. Obviously, we are talking about a less good opponent, but it's a solution. I think that the other option could be Alessandro Rossi, especially if Caicedo continue to play like that. I believe Inzaghi won't be scared to give Alessandro Rossi a chance, and if Alessandro Rossi takes it like he's doing in the friendly match this summer, then I believe he can be the option. He can be the Vice Ciro Immobile.
I would actually like to see Rossi feature against Napoli. I don't know if you agree with this, but I think having a young player who's come through the youth ranks, who's a fan of the club, and he's made an opportunity for himself this summer, and that's what we talked about right at the start before Alonso even began, was that all players can really do at this point. Everyone already has expectations about whether they'll leave, whether they'll go out on loan. All they can do is give themselves an opportunity. And Rossi is the big player of this summer who's really done that. And he's put himself into the debate, into the argument of whether he's good enough to play as a Lazio striker. I think quite a good way of getting a read on that early doors would put him in first game of the season, huge game against Napoli. I'm not saying from the start, but I think if we're in need of a goal, if we're looking for somebody to light it up a bit towards the end, the last 5-10 minutes of the game, I don't know, I'd quite welcome the idea of sending on Rossi and seeing what he can do, and not only at that level, but also in that atmosphere of a big home game. There should be a lot of fans there against a big team, and see what he can do.
I agree with you. I would love to see it, but the fact that he didn't come in tonight and Caicedo did tell me that, especially in the first match, it's going to be really hard to see it happening. Said this, I agree. I think Alessandro Rossi has more options, more skills. Has more the killer instinct than Caicedo, and we saw it in these friendly matches all season, all summer long. He scored in different ways, and you know that if there is a dangerous ball in the box, you know that he's gonna come there and try to score. While you know that Caicedo will probably miss it. So
yeah, outside the box.
yeah. It's probably too early to see Alessandro Rossi jump in front of Caicedo, but Inzaghi wasn't shy to start Lombardi 2 years ago, so it wouldn't be totally surprising.
No, and don't forget this time last year as well, Alessandro Norge got his big chance against Juventus, big game, came on and scored the winning goal. It's something Inzaghi has done in the past and has been rewarded with. So, and I think, and at this point, I can kind of bring in the second part of that, the question from Vildan Glavas as well. I think that a huge part of team selection for Inzaghi is it sounds obvious, but his attitude and how these players are behaving and what his relationship is like them, and having a look at their motivation and their hunger and that they're in the right place. And the question, the first part of it is, why does Inzaghi trust Wallace so much? And I think that that's a big part of it. Wallace coming into this summer didn't seem to really have a future at Lazio anymore, along with Bastos. But everything that Wallace has said has been very positive. He's put himself out there into the spotlight to say, I'm fighting for my place, I can't wait for the new season. And, he's made a lot of very positive noises. And Wallace has done enough in his time at Lazio to show that he can be a very good defender. I mean, he has had some very good games. The problem is, much like Bastos and Mauricio before him, the errors that he makes tend to be so high profile that that's what sticks in people's minds above anything else. Now, I'm not going to claim that Wallace is a brilliant defender. If it was up to me, he wouldn't be in the starting lineup for Lazio. But I think that's going to have played a big part in the reasoning for Inzaghi of why this pre-season he's decided to stick with Wallace. I think he must be impressed by the attitude, and clearly there's a desire there to prove everyone wrong and change things next season.
I think Lazio fans are often too hard with the Lazio players. Let's not forget that Wallace played the Champions League with Monaco. He started last season very well before the injury. Let's not forget about that. I think he made an incredible mistake at the derby, and that's what a lot of fans remember. And we all said that making a mistake in the derby at Rome, it's huge. People will remember that. But I don't think he's that bad, you know. I see teams of fans talking about players that, for me, are worse than him, and they rate him much higher. So, and again, as I said today, Wallace played well, and then I was watching website like La Lazio Siamo Noi giving him 5 for what? You know, he didn't do nothing wrong. So sometimes it's, it's Wallace. Okay, he's bad. No. See the match before talking about him. Again, I would love to see someone better, especially because we believe that Lazio could have some money to spend in the market to get a better player. But 1 week left till the transfer market closes, and Alistair, I'm not convinced Lazio is going to buy anybody. So I don't think a defender is going to come. I don't think Avishai Immobile is going to come.
Well, it was interesting to see, you mentioned the comments of Latito earlier on in the show when he was talking about Anderson, but he also said that in his opinion, the thing that is needed the most is another defender. He said a physically strong defender, and kind of hinted that somebody turned up.
He was talking about Salernitana because that's an interview he made to a Salernitana website, and he said that it's funny because he said that what Salernitana needs more is a strong central defender, and it's a shame that Luis Felipe, that was there, wasn't given a chance because the coaches didn't trust him, and now Ramos has become a very good defender, so it's a shame. But and then he said that because they asked him about Anderson, he said if Basta leaves Lazio, which I don't think is going to happen because I didn't see any offer for him, then Anderson is going to stay. By the way, Anderson played today the last 3-5 minutes. So I think Anderson is going to go on loan to Salernitana. And I believe that's going to be the end of the transfer window of Lazio, which could be seen as a positive sign because Milinkovic-Savic is staying. But on the other side, I think that Lazio could have need Avishai Immobile better than Casado.
Of course. Yeah, so I must have misunderstood those quotes then. I suppose the other big one that's come out this week, though, has been Manuel Lazzari. And, we talked before and agreed that the right side of midfield is somewhere in the squad that needs strengthened, but we weren't really appearing to be linked with many players in that position. And now, quite late in the day, this doesn't seem to be going away, but can you see it happening before the deadline? I mean, it seems complicated because we really need to lose players before we can bring anyone in, and even if he is part of a deal, it seems, I don't know, to me it seems quite late for such what would be quite a complex deal to go through.
Yeah, especially because I don't understand how much Lazzari is valued, because if you have to pay him 6 million euros plus Cataldi and another player, how much are we paying him? Cataldi's value must be 5-6 million euros, right? So 6 million plus Cataldi is already 12 million euros plus another player. How much are we paying him? So I don't believe that's true. Obviously, Lazzari played against Lazio in the friendly match. He played really well. It's a spot that Lazio would need an upgrade, and Lazzari could be that type of player. But as we said, I think no one's going to come to Lazio at the moment. I think the transfer market for Lazio is finished. If something big happens and Lazio doesn't sell a player. Talking about Cataldi, he played today, and I think this means that he's part of the list of Inzaghi. And as we said that Badel didn't play that well today, I think Inzaghi could try this week and see if Cataldi can play that position.
Yeah, I mean, I was really scratching my head earlier thinking about this. You know, if Badel isn't ready and Lucas is suspended, who do you go for there? I mean, Marco Parolo was used in that position at times last season, but then you have his position to fill. So your options really, I suppose, Parolo, Cataldi, Murgia maybe. The problem is that none of these guys, they're all different kinds of player. You know, it's not their natural, most comfortable role, and that does worry me because in a game like this against a team with the attacking threat of Napoli, you really want to be very confident that the person who's going to be in that holding midfield position will be able to provide the defence with the cover that they need, because they definitely will need it. So it's really difficult to decide who is best placed to take on that responsibility. And I think perhaps Marco Parolo is the best place to do it. But then you have to fill his position.
Yeah, and Alistair, I would say this is a typical Lazio situation, right? You reinforce, you buy so many midfielders that you can say that Lazio has probably one of the best, if not the best, midfield in Italy. And then you go to the first match of the season and you have so many holes to fill, right? Lulic and Leiva are out because they're banned. Murgia is injured. He had a surgery last week, so he's out. Badel is not fit. Berisha is injured. You have 6 players out already, and it's the first match of the season. That's incredible. And I thought the midfield it's the area where Lazio improved more, and we're going to play the first match against a tough team, as you were saying, with so many players out. That that could be a huge problem. As you were saying, Parolo can play that there. Yes, maybe it could be better because I believe Cataldi is better if he play in Parolo's position, box-to-box midfielder, than a playmaker in front of the defense. So it could be an option. Again, we have to wait this week and see how Badel reacts and train, because he still have time to improve.
Yeah, and because he is such a natural stand-in for Lucas in that position, I would still probably say that it's worth risking. I would say it's worth getting, 50, 60 minutes out of Badel from the start, rather than putting someone else in that position who's going to struggle to adapt to that role more. I mentioned earlier I didn't manage to see the game today. It doesn't sound like he's impressed too many people, but I think it's worth bearing in mind that this is a guy with enormous experience in Serie A, as well as obviously in the international stage. So I don't think it's fair to really base, to judge him too harshly on however well or badly he played today. And you said quite rightly, there is another week full of training to come. So a week's a long time in football, and hopefully he can build up his fitness. And I would still like to see him start. I'd be surprised if he was being picked to start the game today. And yes, he wasn't at 100%. I'd still be surprised if he wasn't starting on Saturday, just because he was starting today.
Yeah, and as you know, you have to give play time to these players to get the best form, playing football. So they'll need to play. So I believe probably Badel won't finish the game against Napoli, but I think he's going to start. He can play 50 minutes and then Cataldi can come in. He has the experience to do it, Cataldi. You can swap Parolo in that position and put Cataldi there. The problem is starting so early with the World Cup finishing. You have players like Badel, Milinkovic-Savic that started training a couple of weeks ago, so they cannot be in top of the form, obviously. And starting the season with playing against Napoli and Juventus doesn't help. It's true that if you arrive at the third game of the season with 0 point, you don't have to push the panic button because you played against the teams that finished first and second last season. But it would be always better to win some matches at the beginning of the season. Honestly, I think playing at home against Napoli it's not that bad because Napoli have changed a lot of things and they're struggling to find the form at the moment. So it could be good. Obviously, it would have been better if Leva would have been there.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're absolutely right. I think this is a good time to get Napoli, a new year under Ancelotti, so on the changes that have taken place in the transfer market. But, they remain, like you say, a great team. They got 91 points in the league last season. And I don't know, their pre-season, they got hammered by Liverpool 5-0, and I think that drew a lot of criticism. Then yesterday they were beaten by Wolfsburg, but they also did manage to beat Dortmund, which we didn't. So, read into that what you will. But I do think a Saturday night game against Napoli at home in the current circumstances, it's winnable. It's not as impossible a task as it appeared to be last season, for example. And we had an absolutely disastrous time against them last year. Lost both games 4-1. So conceding 8 goals in 2 games is never good. We just never really looked like we got to grips with how to compete really against Sarri's team. We were very unlucky, particularly in that first game, where the amount of injuries built up during the match was incredible. But at the same time, the scoreline doesn't lie, and I don't think we're facing a similarly strong team this time around, but that's not to say it won't be a huge challenge. By the way, I've got a statistic today.
Oh, wow.
Finally.
Go for it.
So we're back to competitive football when the stats start appearing again. I did a little bit of research because I was thinking of those games against Napoli last season, and I was thinking, God, a record against Napoli can't be very good. I couldn't really think of many wins apart from the Champions League qualification win a few seasons ago and the one where Stefano Mauri scored his amazing overhead kick, because I was actually behind the goal when that went in. So I had a look at it, and it turned out we've not beaten them since May 2015, which was that game that sealed the Champions League playoff. And then that was actually our only win against them in the last 6 seasons. So 12 games, we've beaten them once. So it's a bit of a depressing statistic, but, history is there to be changed.
Absolutely. Yeah, interesting. As you were saying, Lazio struggle a lot against Sarri, so the fact that he's not there maybe can help us. We're going to see what happens. But considering that the transfer market for Lazio is finished, how would you judge Lazio transfer market?
I think the missing out on Avice Immobile, it's not shut yet, obviously, but it does look, like you're saying, like not much else is going to happen. I think the failure to sign Avice Immobile is one of the greatest failures Sarri has made as a sporting director at Lazio. That might sound a little bit over the top, but I don't think it is. Because his role his job is to strengthen parts of the squad that need strengthened, to conduct deals. There was no secret, this hasn't come about. The need for a backup striker hasn't come about because we've lost anyone, because we've sold anyone. It's been evident for over a year, you could say. Caicedo was brought in last summer as a cheap alternative. It's been obvious he's not been able to live up to that, the expectations of being the stand-in for Ciro. And to be honest, I think it's really, really poor from the club to fail to do that. Having said that, the rest of the business has been good. The squad as a whole has been strengthened. I think we've got better depth now than we did last season throughout the squad, I would say. But that failure to get that Vice Immobile is so big that for me, it doesn't overshadow all the rest of the work that's been done, but it does stop this from being a good mercato.
So from rating from 1 to 10?
5.
Wow. Wow. I thought 7.
I think that's not a judgment on the quality of signings who we have brought in. Like I say, I think that they've been good. I've been very happy with the business. But I think that the failure to do that, to sign that player, is such a big failure that it brings everything else down for me.
Wow, so it's... Okay. And, I think rating should be 7.5. Obviously, with a Vice Immobile, it would have been 9. It would have been perfect, I think. We can talk about maybe a reinforcement on the right side of the midfield, but I don't know. I think the biggest question here is it true that Inzaghi said, no, Caicedo is my Vice Immobile, I'm happy with him, or it started as said, we couldn't find no one better than him? Because, that changes a lot, because it would be Inzaghi's fault and not Tare's fault. But, we will never know, I presume.
If Tare has come to him and said we can't find anyone better than Caicedo, then he's really failing in his job. Yeah, I mean, a lot of money's been spent this summer. It's a lot of investment has gone into bringing the players we've got, and I just find it crazy that nobody's come in to fill that position. And I cannot believe that Inzaghi has stood by Caicedo to that extent that he would veto a move for another player because he wants Caicedo to be that man. I can't believe that.
Looking what the other teams have done this summer, where do you place Lazio in the Serie A at the moment? I would say Juventus is above everybody and has, the gap become wider, I presume. But after Juventus, who do you place? Because I think Napoli had a bad transfer market. They didn't strengthen the team. I think they got weaker. Inter did a very good transfer market. I don't know how Keita will plan out. He had a terrible season. He's very difficult to deal with. But I think the transfer market of Inter was good. I would place Inter behind Juventus. But then there is Napoli, Roma, Lazio. I think they're nearly all at the same level. I don't know. Do you agree?
More or less, yeah. It's always hard to say. I mean, what you've said about Juventus is obviously right. I think that's going to be another title for them. But I think Inter on paper have a really strong squad now. I would put their starting 11 definitely higher up than ours in terms of quality. The problem I think that I can foresee there is maybe within the dressing room, though. There's a lot of big characters there. They're bringing in Keita as well on top of that. That's we all know the personality issues that he can raise. So Spalletti's got a big job on his hands to control that dressing room. I would say, I'd say that we're in with a chance of the Champions League, and fourth place shouldn't by any means be too ambitious a target. I think that has to be the target. Last season we came so close, unbelievably painful, and I think if anything, the competition has leveled out. In terms of a top four spot, I think the competition has probably leveled out a bit more this summer, rather than become harder. I think Inter have strengthened, but I think Napoli are going to be weaker this season than they were last. I think Roma haven't done an awful lot to convince me that they're going to really push on. And with the likes of Milan, you have no idea what you're going to get with them, really. But I don't really see them as being too much of a threat. So yeah, I'd say fourth place is a realistic target again, but we'll soon find out.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Inter is probably, after Juventus, the team that had the best transfer market. I'm not convinced by Roma. They sold a lot of players, bought others, but I don't think they improve. Napoli, for me, they got weaker, and without Sarri, we're going to see what they're losing. Milan transfer market is not finished. They'll have to buy some midfielders, but I don't know if they are at the same level of Lazio. I think Atalanta lost a lot. They sold so many players. Fiorentina is interesting, but I don't think it's still at that level. So I think Lazio should be able to fight for the fourth place. That is the last spot for the Champions League. Again, it's all gonna come up, matches, luck, injury. Maybe with a better Vice Immobile, this could be avoided. I don't know. Maybe we're talking now. Maybe in 1 month, Alessandro Rossi is gonna become the new Cutrone of the season. Who knows? And I mean, the talent is there, so we're gonna see. To be honest, I think none of the Italian team had that perfect transfer market. Even Juventus had a very, very good. Obviously, they bought Ronaldo. But we're gonna see what's happened with Bonucci coming back, for example. So it's gonna be interesting. I think, as you were saying, Inter had bought a lot of good players, but the problem there, I think, is the leadership. Keita is another difficult character. Let's not forget about Icardi and so on. So it's gonna be interesting. I think the midfield of Lazio can really have a big impact if they start playing, if they are not injured all the season.
Yeah, definitely. And injuries are going to play a big part of it one way or another. This is a very good Lazio team, but there are a few key players within this team that you think, if they were to sustain long-term injuries, it would have an enormous impact on the entire team. As we saw at the end of last season with the problems with Ciro and Alberto as well. So
let's not forget that Lazio has still something like 11 players to sell before the end of the transfer market, because the likes of Filippini and Minala, for example, have not been called to the second part of the summer training in Germany. There are our friend Raul Morrison, Kishina, that probably is going to finish again in Netherlands, and so on, that need to be placed. Even Adamonis, that was on the bench today. I don't believe Lazio is going to keep 4 keepers this season, and I think he needs to play. So I hope maybe he ends up at Salernitana with Anderson.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I don't think this transfer market can be lauded as a great success, is that there are still so many outstanding issues before the season even starts. I mean, the Lukaku situation is ongoing. A bit ridiculous what's ended up happening there. You wouldn't have thought that would have gone on at the start of the season. There's so many players still without a club who aren't going to be part of the first team plans. And I understand it's not always easy to find new clubs for some of these guys or move them on, but we are left with a big wage bill of guys that we're not really intending to use, and that's not a great situation to be in.
Yeah. Do you think Bastos can be the Vice Immobile?
Yes, I wanted to mention this earlier. I forgot. I think all the signs point to Bastos being a more effective Vice Immobile than Caicedo. I mean, we've seen his goal-scoring prowess last season, one of the top-scoring defenders in Serie A. And then on top of that, as you very kindly sent me on Twitter earlier this week, he's been banging in free kicks like no one's business. So I think I've said it for quite a long time now that he's playing in the wrong position. And I think, the Vice Immobile has been there all along.
Alistair, before wrapping it up, there's a question from Simon who's asking, what do you guys think about the situation of UK Serie A rights? No TV deals now, and it's the first time whole league will be only available on streaming. What's the future? Good or bad things for the UK fans? What's your thought about that?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a talking point over here for overseas listeners who aren't aware of this. The Italian football has been shown on BT Sport, a broadcaster over here, for the last, I think, probably about 5 or 6 years now. But this year it's been taken over by a company called 11 Sports. And what they have decided to do is it's become a streaming service. So you don't actually watch the game on the TV on a channel. They'll be streaming it online, and then one game a week, I think it is, they'll be showing live on Facebook as well. So it is interesting, it's a big change in the way that the football broadcasting has been done. I would say as well, in response to that question, I think, as far as I understand it, they are still in talks with Sky and BT about getting their channel being shown on the TV network as well. So I don't think it's the end of that hope, but it is interesting. I mean, I think football broadcasting is changing, it's evolving. Amazon are now coming into it as well. So I think the way that we watch football is about to change. I think it's a good thing in the way that it offers more opportunity. If you can stream it on mobile devices, it gives you flexibility, means you can really watch the game anywhere. I think the idea of having live games on Facebook was only a matter of time, but it's quite hard to have a counter argument to that unless, as long as the quality of the picture and everything is still good enough. So I don't know, it's hard to say when he says, is it a good or a bad thing for British fans? We only have to find that out once it gets up and running, because nobody seems to know an awful lot about 11 Sports, and it's a bit of a step into the unknown, really.
Well, the owner of this company is the owner of Leeds United. It's Andrea Ramazzani. So he's Italian. The biggest question mark at the moment is they don't have an app for the smart TV, so it looks like you won't be able to see it on the TV, even if you have smart TV, like you were talking about Amazon. Well, Amazon has an app, so you will be able to see in 2 years' time the Premier League on TV, even if it's on Amazon. The positive could be that instead of having one match a week, they're going to be broadcasting more Serie A matches. The question is how many? I know this weekend Lazio Napoli will be the free match live on Facebook, so you can watch Lazio for free on Facebook. The question is, I know they have La Liga as well. Are they going to show 4 or 5 Serie A matches every weekend, or are they going to pick and choose between Serie A and Liga, maybe do 2 Serie A, 3 Liga, and so on? Because if they do 5 a week, then you're going to be able to watch Lazio every weekend. So that's better than BT that always choose 1 or 2 matches, and so you could hardly see Lazio. So that could be a better chance. The problem could be the broadcast, the bandwidth, if they have enough bandwidth to broadcast the match and it doesn't stuck every 30 seconds and freeze every time they play. But as Alistair was saying, that's where the sport broadcast is heading. I don't know it's going to be changing that fast. I think that Sky will still retain the biggest events. But, we're going to see how this works out.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing worth mentioning as well is that it's significantly cheaper. I mean, it's, I think, about £60 for the year. which in comparison to paying, you know, I think about £30 a month before for BT. So it is a lot cheaper. Obviously, the extent of the events you're getting to watch is smaller, but from what I've read about them, they've built up quite loyal audiences and more niche sports. I think they had Serie C was one of the things that they've shown in the past, and so I think that they've got quite a good track record of knowing their audience and doing things a little bit differently. So it'll be interesting. You know, it's like I said, it's a bit of a step into the unknown, but it is going to be, hopefully a positive step. But it's impossible to say until the first games are shown, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree. We're gonna see. It's gonna just be this weekend, so we're gonna be able to give you more info after the weekend. I think the first month is free, right? You can subscribe for free, and then the next month or the next week you're gonna be charged. Anyway, we're gonna find out sooner. Thanks everybody for listening us. Remember, you can follow us on iTunes, on Spreaker, on Spotify. Please let us know how many of you are listening to the podcast on Spotify, because I believe the stats are wrong. It cannot be only 2 listeners on Spotify, considering that one is Alistair. So it's pretty much only one. Remember to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. We just renew with Spreaker for all the season, and it wasn't cheap. So if you can help us in any way, there is even our store with our merchandising. So if you like the show and want to help us, you know where to do it. And we'll be back next Saturday after Lazio Napoli, maybe with a show directly from the Stadio Olimpico. Who knows? Thank you, Alistair, and a safe trip to Rome.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
Come on, you eagles, there's no time to fear. Up there's an angel watching